Alright, we're live and alive here. So, sa kasalukuyan ay nagpaparamdam ngayon si Mr. Neil Tristan Yabut. So, ayan, na-mention na natin kung sino po tong taong ito na nagka-claim na fake news daw ang Christianity. I guess now is the time for us to have a short live stream. At sigurado po ako nagsusulat na naman siya ng kanyang mga katawa-tawang mga arguments laban sa Christianity na ilang ulit na po niyang pinapresenta. Ang kaso, there's no substantial arguments na pinapresenta talaga na nagpapatunay na tama siya. So, teka lang, isad natin sa kanya yung link. Dapat magpaliwanag siya ngayon. At sigurado ako, nagchat-chat pa na naman yan. Well then, so, isad muna natin yung link. Dapat pumasok siya dito. O, sabi niya, ayan. So, sinenda natin po mismo ang naturang live stream. Pambihira kasi ito yung sabi ng taong ito, ha. Tingnan nyo, sabi niya, start with the various abuses committed by your church and its members. Tapos inaamin ko daw na, ina-admit ko daw yun. O yun, kailangan niyang pumasok kung tama ang kanyang claim. Tapos para mas masaya, dapat siya. Oh. At sana naman magparamdam siya. Take note, naka-record po tayo ngayon. At sana pumasok talaga itong ating matalinong, sige sabihin natin matalinong tao na to, he must have to prove na totoo yung kanyang akusasyon na fake news ang Christianity. Mention muna natin. Hanggang ngayon kasi nag-ingay siya, tingnan mo. Sabi pa niya, despite your so-called moral standards, you can publicly condemn your church abuses. Ang problema, wala siyang moral standard para patunayan na tama siya. Ang kaso, hindi pa rin siya makapasok. What happened to him? I know you're watching. Pasok sa StreamYard. You must have to prove first that Christianity is fake news. We're waiting at you. Oh, ayan. Come on. Tingnan yung tinutukoy ng taong ito. Sabi daw niya, patunayan mo munang totoo ang lahat ng inaangkin ng Christianity. Kaso siya ang unang nag-claim, remember? Alam kong nakikinig siya sa atin ngayon, pero ayaw niyang pumasok. Bakit kaya? Was he a coward or what so not? Or I don't know. You must have to see this kind of hindi naman masasabi natin outrageous, but he was just making many outrageous claims, but he cannot explain to us why Christianity is a fake news. Kakasabi lamang niya yung tungkol sa sinasabing hindi ko raw publicly condemn daw yung mga church abuses. Even though in reality, sa kanyang worldview, sa kanyang ginagalawang mundo, wala siyang moral standard para sabing mali. And remember, if God exists, then may matatawag na objective moral values and duties. At bilang paalala sa taong ito na nagmamarunong sa Christianity, ine-expose talaga kung ano yung mali. Why? If Jesus really claimed to be God, then whatever he said is true. At yung kanyang mga yung mga condemnation against the hypocrisy of those religious people only shows na mali talaga yung hypocrisy, mali talaga yung mga sinasabing abuses. Pero kung tama ang claim ng taong ito, kung tama ang claim niya, nasaan ang moral standard niya? Take note, inamin niya na worldview ang kanyang worldview na atheism. Pero hindi niya may paliwanag sa akin, hindi niya may paliwanag sa atin kung bakit ganon. Bakit mali ang mga sinasabi niyang mga abuses? Actually, listen to this. Later on in the evening, mamaya i-call out uli natin tong taong ito. Kailangan niya munang patunayan sa atin na Christianity daw ay fake news. Okay. Kasi ang ina-assume na dito, fake news daw ang Christianity. Pero wala siyang anumang reason kung bakit. Ito yung StreamYard ho, Mr. Yabut, oh. I'm already calling you out here. Pero bakit ayaw mo magpakita? Andito po yung StreamYard, pasok ka lang dyan. Pindutin mo lang yung link. Nag-assume na naman tong taong to. Yan ba, ganyan ba yung sinasabing argument ng mga internet atheists ngayon? They went on and on. Kumbaga, sige ang personal attacks, no? Sige yung pag-aatake. Subalit, kapag presenta natin ng good reasons why we think na yung sinasabi niya na Christianity ay fake news ay isa lamang malaking kalokohan, what is he doing? He personally attacks Christians here. Yan ba ang good reason para sabihing tama ang kanyang mga argumento? Listen, to those who claim to those people who claim to be intellectual, itong nakikita niyo po ngayon sa screen, whether you are an atheist, a Christian, a Muslim, or whoever you are, this kind of comment like this is a textbook example of pseudo-intellectual statement. You see? Kinall out na po natin tong taong ito, hindi po siya pumasok sa live stream. Hindi po siya pumasok sa link na ito, and he must have to explain himself why he thinks that Christianity is false or fake news. Come on. If this guy is really noble-minded, dapat napapanood niya yung mga videos dito. Dapat alam niya yung mga arguments why Christianity is true. Ang dami na po dyan. May mga libro tayo dyan. Meron po, meron po mga podcast dyan. Meron na pong mga articles dyan. Pero itong taong ito, nagbubulag-bulagan so to speak. Nagbibingi-bingian. He went on to say, tignan mo yung pang-abuso ng church nyo, ganito, ganito, ganyan. Pero wala siyang explanation kung ano ang moral standard niya. Remember, inamin niya na ang kanyang worldview ay talagang worldview. That atheism is truly a worldview. And yet, there's no explanation why he thinks that his claims are true and correct. Siya pang may ganang magmura. Is that what he said here? Alam kong nanonood siya ngayon at mamaya atake yan mamaya. Remember, take note, take note. Biglang nag-online tong taong ito para sabihing hindi ko raw masagot-sagot daw yung kanyang mga pinagsasabi. Even though in reality, we already presented good case for Christianity, he must have to watch my videos as well. O kaya sige, kahit hindi yung sa akin. O canon.ph, meron din silang videos na ganyan. I mean, ano to? Mga links, mga posts. After, listen my friends, pagkatapos po natin na magkaroon po ng unexpected na live stream, wala na. He never showed up. Kahit lang may boses na tulad lang nito. You see, teka, mag-search po muna tayo, no? Okay? Let's have some search and let's find out right now what this guy was doing. Okay? Para makita nyo po kung paano niya pinipersonal ang mga Kristiyano, so to speak. Remember, hindi ko po sinasabi na ini-ignore natin yung mga abuses sa ilang mga religious groups, especially pagka-church naman. I don't know if he remembered about Jimmy Swaggart or Ravi Zacharias or whoever they were. They condemned it. Most Christian apologists condemned what they did. Tapos ina-assume ng taong ito na hindi raw natin kinokondena. Sabi pa ng taong ito, inaamin ko raw na okay lang daw yung mga abuses na ganyan. Eh, ang problema, wala po siyang moral standard. Hypocrisy na pong tawag dyan eh. Parang masasabi natin na double standards na. Take note, kapag ka in-address natin yung mga pinagkagawa ni Hitler, ano pa, Khmer Rouge, yung mga yon, wala siyang sabi. Hindi niya makondena. Ganyan po kahipokrito minsan ng mga taong tulad niya. Real talk lang. Kung yan po ang kaparaanan to disprove Christianity, to say that Christianity is fake news, you're not doing your job. Ganun po ang nangyayari dito, lalo sa mga internet atheists na tulad niya. Tingnan nyo, ang challenge natin, dahil siya ang unang nag-claim, Christianity is fake news. We answered this guy by what? Ang dami nating videos na nagpapatunay na Christianity is true. The argument for the beginning of the universe, the design of the universe, DNA. Ang kaso nga lang, instead of disproving Christianity, anong ginagawa niya? Brain game. Brain game lagi ang ginagawa nito. Is this how you prove that Christianity is fake news? Okay. So at this point, dahil hindi na nagparamdam tong taong ito, sige, address po natin ang kanyang mga pinagsasabi sa iba't ibang, ito, for example na lamang, wait a minute. Let's go through this one. Tignan natin kung pwedeng mag-share dito sa StreamYard natin. Okay, so share screen po tayo. Ayan. You must have to see this one. Sa context pa lamang dito sa isang news concerning sa, let's say, yung tungkol po sa card ng isang estudyante, tapos hindi po issue dyan yung tungkol sa kung anong tinuturo or whatsoever. Pero tingnan niyo po ang sinasabi nito. What on earth was that for? Yan daw mapapala sa isang makadiyos na sistema ng edukasyon. Wala sa konteksto tong taong ito actually. Tapos sinabi niya, the Philippines is not theocracy. Sino bang Kristiyanong nag-claim dyan? Sige nga. At inamin niya na wala siyang respeto sa kahit anong paniniwala. Oh, minura pa niya ang Panginoon dito. Pero wala siyang explanation kung bakit fake news ang Christianity. Oh, tignan nyo, oh. Teka lang, ewan ko lang kung may nag-comment na dito. Ayan, ganyan po kabastos tong taong ito. O, kilo-call out na natin tong taong ito, hindi na siya nagparamdam mula nang nag-live tayo. Oh. Kasi hipokrito talaga tong taong ito actually. He went on to say, tignan nyo yung mga abuses sa Christianity, ganito, ganito. Pero pagka pinipinpoint natin sa atheism, wala na. To my atheist friends who are watching right now, and I know you are watching, or maybe there are some who will go to watch later on, look at this. Look at this kind of comments. Ganyan po katindi kung manira ang taong ito. You must have to see right now. You see? Take note, we are not saying na ano, stop or whatever. Pero ang problema, alam mo kung bakit binablock ka? Ha? Mr. Yabut? Yang uri ng pakikipag-argumento mo para po kayong batang inagawan ng candy. And ito lang tanong ko sa iyo ha, at sana maging tapat ka. Why on earth you are writing such kind of trollings in every Christian pages, but not even there to explaining why you think your claims are correct? Stop ko muna yung screens. Ay, hindi. Mamaya. So, ganyan po eh. Tingnan nyo po mabuti. Nung nagtungo siya mismo dito, sa page ng Canon PH, shoutout po sa Canon PH, no? Tapos marami na po palang mga comment. Yung mga comment. Yung mga komentong pinagsasabi. You see? Take note, remember my friends, hindi po niya kayang patunayan na fake news ang Christianity. Ang ginagawa niya, ito, halimbawa nito. Ayan. And to be honest with you, this guy has no idea what he was talking about. Malamang hindi niya alam ang Christianity. Ganyan po ka-delusion ang taong ito, so to speak. And yet they claim to be intellectual. Wow! As you can see, ayan, may live stream tayo ngayon for example, hindi na po nagparamdam ang taong ito. Look at that. Look at this. Wait lang ha. Stop sharing ko muna. Yan. Ganyan po makikita kung gaano po kaduwag ang taong ito pagdating sa conversation live like this. Sorry for that, mayroong asong tumatahol sa labas. But anyway, listen to this. To every single person who claimed to be atheist, like this guy, mag-present ka muna ng good reason why you think your claim is true. Mag-share screen muna tayo uli. Pansinin nyo, Kinall out na rin siya ng Canon PH dyan. Hinahamon din po siya ng isang live discussion. Ito nga, meron na po tayong live stream ngayon. Pero what does he did? Ang ginawa niya, tumakbong parang asong bahag ang buntot. So I will quote Canon PH for this. Sabi niya, sabi po ng admin ng Canon PH na nag-e-expose sa pinagsasabi ng taong ito, at ito na po, nakikita niyo na, Neil Tristan Yabut na tagpo ang duwag at nagtatago sa kanyang keyboard warrior ego. Mr. Neil, with all that said, that's you. You're just a keyboard warrior. Tingnan nyo tama kasing punto ng Canon PH eh. This is the problem with many of the internet atheists in Facebook. They seem strong in attacking Christianity, but when they are invited for a friendly, not hostile discussion, wala na. Umaalis na ang duwag. O, kakasend lamang yata ng mensahe. Sabi niya, yet despite your so-called moral standard, ayun, aktibo siya ngayon sa pambabash ngayon. You must have to see this right now. Ayan. So, para makita niya. At sana nanonood siya ngayon. Oh, I am using your own worldview para makita mo ang kawalang kwenta ng pinagsasabi mo. Hindi niya alam, tinatamaan niya ang kanyang sarili. Despite your so-called moral standard, you cannot publicly kakasabi ko lang. Hindi yata updated to. Remember, hindi po siya updated. Hindi niya yata napapansin, naka-live na siya. Ayun niya yatang pumasok. Itong StreamYard, oh. Ayan. Oh, invite natin. Sa dami ng kanyang mga sinasabi, wala pa rin siyang good reasons why he thinks Christianity is fake news. Hanggang ganun lang, tingnan nyo, lalo na sa'yo. Ano pa? Hindi niya yata alam na kung totoo ang kanyang worldview, kumbaga, wala siyang moral standard. Teka lang. I-reshare natin dito. Hindi ko yata nakita yan. Ito. So you will see this kind of nonsense that he was talking to. Ito na. Nag-private chat. Sabi niya raw, because none of you have proven that Christianity is true. Ito. Mukhang nagparamdam na. Sige. Can you prove to us why do you think Christianity is fake news? Magsalita ka na ngayon. None? Circular reasoning ka, Ginoo. Circular reasoning ka. Bakit hindi ka bakit hindi ka magsalita talaga through mic? Sabi niya kasi, because none of you have proven that Christianity is true. Paano circular reasoning? Tingnan mo. Christianity is fake news because no one can prove that Christianity is true. Really? Come on. Come on, you're just burying yourself here. You must have to prove based on evidence that Christianity is fake news. Yan po ang iyong assignment. What are the pieces of evidence? If you are talking about what you call, sabi niya, none of you have proven that unicorns are real. And yet, as an atheist, naniniwala ka na ang universe ay eternal. Na ang buhay ay galing sa walang buhay. Come on. Anong klaseng analogy yan? Bagsak pa rin. Wala pa rin pieces of evidence nagpapatunay na Christianity is fake news according to you. Ang come on, hindi ko naman, tingnan nyo ha, I will rewrite what this guy said here. Where did I say the universe is eternal? Tapos B-O-B-O. Alam mo, dapat marinig ka dito. Gusto kong marinig yung ganyan, anong totoo naman, di ba? Pero wala ka namang moral standard. Where did I say that the universe is eternal? Tanungin mo po yung mga mas eksperto pa sa'yo na atheist pa. Come on. Come on. Pumunta ka muna dito sa tanong na yan. Why do you think Christianity is fake news? Can't unmute your guests because they choose to mute themselves. Reference is specifically, alam nyo kung ganyan, ito ha guys, kung ganyan kaloko ang taong ito, ayan yet here I am talking, come on, eto, naririnig mo yung boses ko, bakit ayaw mo? You're just a keyboard warrior. That's you. Teka lang ha, i-share ko muna tong sa StreamYard, sana ma-share ko pa sana. Ito, kitang-kita. Let's do it. Am I a chat warrior? Hello, you're already listening to my voice. Again, saan ang patunay na Christianity is fake news? Yan ang dapat mo pong ipagtanggol. Yan Ay, teka lang, hindi ko yata na yung, wait lang ha. Hindi ko pa naalis eh. Tingnan nyo kasi, ganyan wait lang ha. Hindi ko pa makita kung saan ko na itong sa chat room eh. Tinawag pa niya akong damas Oy, Hitler! De, joke lang. Pero remember, anong pinagsasabi niya Saan ang patunay na Christianity is true? Come on, ikaw ang unang nagpatunay na Christianity is fake news. Ikaw ang unang magpatunay dyan. Yan ang title natin. Prove that Christianity is fake news. And by the way, anong Hitler is a Christian? Did you ever dare to re-examine the historical data on World War II? Really? Maglatag tayo ng link ha? Ng isang, ano to? Got minute units, Google mo, blah, 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 blah. At least nagsa-search ka, hindi tulad mo na nag-assume ka, Ginoo. Again, patunayan mo muna na fake news ang Christianity. Ganun lang po kasimple. Ganun lang kasimple. Kita nyo, umalis na tong duwag na to. Wait lang ha. Balik tayo dito. Balik tayo. Neil, tignan mo ang pinagsasabi mo dito. Ayan ka. Hinahamon ka na ng debate, pero ayaw mong magpakita. Ay, come on! Tingnan niyo itong sabi nitong taong ito, ha? Hindi niya masagot-sagot yung simple nating tanong. Napatunayan niyo muna na Christianity is fake news. At saka yung pagsasabi niya ng mga salitang to, wala siyang, take note, sa kanyang worldview na walang kwenta at basura. Wala siyang moral standard. Yan ang totoo. Sabi niya, I already did, you just, what? Ano mas basurang Christianity? Hindi mo alam ang Christianity, hindi mo alam ang Bible, hindi mo alam ang turo. Yung take note, oh, duwag to, oh. Ayaw niyang mag-unmute ng mic. Oh, ayan, para makita nyo. O, ba't siya napunta sa Mark 16? Alam ba niya yung sinabi doon ng Lord? Huwag mong subukan ng Panginoon mong Diyos. Alam ba niya yun? Ay, hindi niya alam. Hindi niya alam. Guys, this guy is a textbook example of how not to discuss. Sino pong duwag sa atin? Bakit hindi ka po magparamdam through this voice? Sinong duwag sa atin ngayon? Katunayan mo na Christianity is fake news, ganun lang kasimple. Bait, kailangan voice. So inaamin mo na keyboard warrior ka pala. Sabi pa niya, para lang makalusot, voice is not a measure of bravery. Okay, sana ang claim mo, pero hindi mo ina-apply sa pinagsasabi mo. Chat warrior, at least, naririnig mo ako. Ikaw, nagtatago sa laptop mo. Thank you. Pero wala kang evidence na totoo ang pinagsasabi mo. What a low bar for you. Well, guys, take note. Ang challenge natin, prove that Christianity is fake news. Pero alam niyo kung ano kanyang sinasabi lang? Simple. None of you have proven that Christianity is true. Listen, matibay na argumento yan? Hindi po. Actually, sobrang babaw. Sabi niya, wala ka ring evidence na totoo ang lahat ng claims of Christianity. Nanonood ka ba ng mga videos ko sa page? Nababasa mo ba yung mga post ng tulad ng Canon PH? Nagbabasa ka ba ng libro? Ay, halatang halata, hindi niya alam. Sige, pakita natin. Okay, sige. Ewan lang natin. As of now, we are live right now. At sabi niya, more than you, more quality books than you. Ano bang book na binabasa mo? Ginoong pseudo-intellectual. Baka hindi ka nagbabasa ng mga books na yan. Yan ito, may live tayo ngayon. Tapos, ayan. Ito, yan, para sabihin ko sa'yo, Ginoong Yabut, na bahagang buntot, you must have to see the following videos that has been presented many, hindi naman many. You're here but you are hiding in your closet. Hanggang videos lang ba kayo? O baka hindi ito nanonood. Remember, hindi ito nanonood tong taong ito. Hindi siya nagsasaliksik. Stop sharing natin. Tapos balik tayo dito. Remember ang premise. Prove that Christianity is fake news. But he is still on a big dilemma. Yan po ang mga excuses niya. Okay? You see? Instead of proving that Christianity is fake news, ganito lang pala ang kanyang komento. What kind of comment is that? Is that it? Yan ang the best evidence mo to prove that Christianity is fake news? Are you really sure for that? Guys, itong taong ito ay isa sa mga typical example ng mga nagmamarunong. Para sabihin, hindi totoo ang Christianity. Wala, magta-type lang tapos wala na. No explanation. Kita nyo? It's not a dilemma. Know what a dilemma means. Hindi niya alam na sa dilemma na yung posisyon niya. Wala akong sinasabing nagmamarunong ako, Ginoo. Ano ka ba naman? Go back to the unicorns. Even, sige, sabi, taken for granted, no? Taken for granted na sinasabi niya yung tungkol sa unicorn. Nasaan yung mga unicorn? Inside or outside the universe? Sige nga. Come on. Pinapanood ka ngayon. Define outside the universe. Ay, itong taong ito talaga. Sagutin mo muna yung tanong ko. Come on. Wala. Nagtatanong na nga lang eh kung ano-ano nung mga pinagsasabi. Oh, again oh. Ito lang yung kanyang naibigay lang na sagot. Christianity is fake news according to Mr. Neil Tristan Yabut because according to him, none of you have proven that Christianity is true, which is napakababaw. Walang kwenta ang argumentong to. Tingnan nyo mamaya, pagkatapos ng live stream natin, mag-iingay yan sa post na to, sa video na to. I assure you for that. That's all he can do. To troll. To make fun at Christians. Yan ang ugali ng taong yan. Oh, ang assuming niya kasi dito, walang nagpapatunay sa inyo, walang nagpapatunay. Eh, ang dami nang nagpapatunay, nagbabasa ba siya? Sarado lang ang utak nito. Real talk. Ganyan po kahipokrit itong si Neil pagdating sa mga argumentong tulad niyan. He claimed to be pseudo-intellectual and yet he even does not understand what he was talking about. Hindi niya po talaga matibag ang arguments for Christian faith. Hindi niya po talaga matumba ang katotohanan na may Diyos talaga. Ang ginagawa lamang niya, mumurahin niya ang Diyos, mag-ano ng meme, ganyan ang ugali. Ganyan po ang typical na yan ang typical na character ng isang internet atheist. Alam niyo yung ganyan? Oh, ayan, tingnan niyo po yung mga pinagsasabi. Even, ito sasabihin ko sa iyo ha, makinig ka. Huwag ka muna magta-type dyan, akala mo, mapapatunayan yung claim mo. Take note napakababaw ng kanyang sagot dito. I'm not yet satisfied for this. Take note, prove that Christianity is fake news. Pero ganyan lang kababaw ang pinagsasagot niya. Ngayon naghamon siya, nasaan daw ang Diyos, nasaan daw ang Diyos, nasaan ang Diyos. Even if God will reveal Himself to you, maniniwala ka. Seryoso ka. Teka lang, ipanood ko po sa inyo yung isa sa mga video ni Dr. David Wood about sa mga punto na sinabi ni Richard Dawkins. At saka sana naman itong taong ito nakikinig. Pero sana naman paano yung video natin? Teka lang. Tingnan niyo to ha. Habang nagpe-prepare ako, tignan nyo, nagko-komento na lamang to ng walang panama. Ganyan po yung tinatawag na pagtahol-tahol na lamang ng mga taong ito. Which is, yun yung nakakalungkot sa mga internet atheists na nagpapanggap na mga marurunong. So, ayan. Punta muna tayo dito sa mismong video ni Dr. David Wood about this. So, let's go.
Remember when Richard Dawkins gave powerful arguments against the existence of God? Neither do I. Dawkins is one of the pioneering ringleaders of that circus we call the New Atheism. If you're not familiar with the group, the New Atheism is like the old atheism if the old atheism got rabies. Back in the 1980s and 1990s, atheists generally didn't care what other people believed. They were like, oh, if you think your God and your book help you, that's fine for you, but I don't need that. Then Richard Dawkins and Sam Harris and Christopher Hitchens came along and turned that cute little atheist puppy into Cujo. How did they do it? How did atheism go from Winnie the Pooh to Cocaine Bear almost overnight? Well, Dawkins and Harris and Hitchens were the first people to successfully use cult tactics on a large scale with atheists. Turns out, if you want to mobilize and weaponize your listeners, arguments and evidence just aren't the way to go in the 21st century. Manipulating people into joining and expanding your group is massively more efficient and effective. Keep in mind, I'm not advocating manipulation and cult tactics. I'm simply describing the world we now live in. If you want a group that's going to march out into the world and mindlessly carry out your commands like drones, you need cult tactics. You instill in your followers an us versus everyone else mentality. It's us.
Dito muna. Sabi niya, can't your God help you with that video glitch? Funny. Yan ba yung pinakamatibay mong argumento to disprove the existence of God? Really? Says the Christian who makes tahol-tahol in public. Ano ginagawa mo dito? 'Di ba? Teka lang ha. Mag-stop muna ako. Ipakita niyo yung pinagsasabi ng teka. Wait lang. Nasaan na tayo? Ayan. Oh. Dito tayo sa ito. Tingnan niyo ang pinagsasabi. Says the Christian who makes tahol-tahol in public. Problema mo. Alam mo, ang pagkakaiba lang sa atin, nagpe-presenta ako ng argument, tinatanong ka na ng maayos. Ikaw, tahol ka ng tahol. Sige, proklamasyon. Christianity is a fake news. PI na Diyos yan. Ganyan ang ugali. Claims to knowledge is what Christian... ugali mo rin yan bilang atheist. Cult tactics. Tanungin mo si Richard Dawkins. Manipulating people to join groups is what Christianity does. Wrong! Maling-mali kaya ito ng kinalaban, Ginoo. Maling-mali ka dyan. Kung nagbabasa ka talaga ng Biblia, kung nagbabasa talaga tong taong ito, pero palagay ko hindi nagbabasa to. Dapat alam niya na mayroong sinasabi na, alam niyo yung mga taga-Berea sa Acts 17:11, tinawag silang noble-minded o bukas ang isipan. Bakit? Naniwala agad sa turo ni Apostle Paul? Hindi lang yon. At lalong hindi yon. They searched the scriptures daily to see where those things were so. Come on. Ang Christianity ay may kinalaman kay Kristo. Anong kinalaman ni Senyor Aguila dyan? Okay, tuloy natin yung video. Sabi daw niya, you're both Christians. Sorry to tell you, he's not even a Christian. Lalo na kung tungkol sa essential. Sige, hamunin kita ngayon. Tanong, ano ang mga essential doctrines ng Christianity? Sige nga, kung alam mo talaga ang katuruan, at habang naghanap siya ng kanyang assignment, panoorin muna natin yung video na ito ni Dr. Wood. Saan na? Okay, let's continue.
Against the world. You give them an unmerited self-esteem boost just for being in your group. In this case, it's, oh, if you're part of our group, you're smart. If you're not part of our group, you're dumb. You stir up their emotions and give them a sense of urgency. Oh man, Christians are on the verge of forming a theocracy. If we don't stop this religion thing right now, we're all doomed. If you set up your group correctly, you can rely on peer pressure within the group to keep members in line. So if someone starts asking the wrong questions or doubting the group's doctrines, other members of the group will shame that person into conformity. The most crucial step for someone like Dawkins is convincing his followers to let him do their important thinking for them. If you run into a Dawkins drone on Twitter or in the comments section of YouTube, the Dawkins drone will tell you how stupid you are for believing in God. But if you start asking questions, you find out very quickly that the Dawkins drone has no clue what he's talking about. He doesn't know anything about biology or cosmology or history or philosophy or anything else that may be relevant to the discussion. In fact, there's a really good chance that the Dawkins drone, who's trying to convince you to become an atheist, can't even spell the word atheist. I don't have any actual statistics, but I would estimate, based on personal encounters online, that between 1/4 and 1/3 of Dawkins drones can't spell the word atheist. But that won't stop them from telling you how stupid you are for not mindlessly siding with Richard Dawkins, the Zuckerknight of atheism. Why are these Dawkins drones so confident that there's no evidence for the existence of God when they've clearly never examined the evidence for anything? Well, they really believe that their atheist heroes have carefully examined the evidence and concluded that the evidence is really, really bad. The vast majority of the new atheists that you'll encounter have never actually studied any of the arguments for theism. Instead, they have extremely devout, dare I say it, faith that their leaders have carefully thought through these issues for them. There's just one problem. The leaders of the new atheism haven't carefully considered the evidence and concluded that there's no evidence for the existence of God. They've done something far simpler and far more cult-like. They've constructed a methodology that is absolutely impervious to evidence. The actual evidence for God's existence is completely irrelevant to someone like Richard Dawkins, because he's using a methodology that makes his ideology immune to evidence. Let me guess, you Dawkins fans don't believe me, do you? Can't trust a theist. We're not in your group. We're all dumb. Can't trust an outsider. Well, let's turn to someone you can trust, Richard Dawkins. You don't want to go against him, do you? Of course not. Think about what it would do to your self-esteem if you got kicked out of your group and you didn't get to sit around all day telling everyone else how stupid they are. That would be as traumatic as an Andrew Tate fan suddenly realizing that telling women they're inferior won't actually get him a Bugatti. In the clips we're about to watch, Peter Boghossian is interviewing Richard Dawkins. Boghossian is the author of A Manual for Creating Atheists. So you know he's going to be nodding in agreement at everything Dawkins says. But after these two atheists agree with each other that there just aren't any good arguments for belief in God, Boghossian gets hypothetical. Suppose God did exist. What sort of evidence could God give Dawkins that could convince Dawkins to believe in God?
Given that the host of arguments don't work, what would it take for you to believe in God?
What would it take? And as we're about to see, they're talking about what it would take if theism were true. If God exists, how could he convince Richard Dawkins that he exists?
Well, I used to say it would be very simple. It would be, the second coming of Jesus, or a great big, deep, booming bass Paul Robeson voice saying, "I am God and I created."
So he used to say that the second coming of Jesus or an audible voice from God would convince him. But then he realized that these things wouldn't convince him at all.
I was persuaded mostly by actually Steve Zara, who's a regular contributor to my website, richarddawkins.net. He more or less persuaded me that even if there was this booming voice and the second coming in clouds of glory, the more probable explanation is that it's a hallucination or a conjuring trick by David Copperfield or something.
Notice, if God did speak, and if Jesus did return, coming on the clouds of heaven with legions of angels, Dawkins still wouldn't believe in God, because a more probable explanation to him would be that it's all a hallucination or a magic trick. But they're not finished.
So if you walked out and there were these globes that were spinning around that said, I am God, believe in me, or the famous Krauss thing, you walk out into the sky and it spells out in the stars in different languages, I am God, believe in me.
So now we walk outside and we see a message written in the stars. The stars have been rearranged so that they spell out, I am God, believe in me, in multiple languages. Surely that would convince these guys who always go where the evidence points, right?
Well, again, the problem is it could be a delusion, but the other problem is you'd have to rule out alternative explanations.
So there could be other explanations for why a message about God was written in the stars.
You'd have to rule out alternative explanations, like the aliens. I mean, you'd have to. How could you rule out? Well, I mean, there could be an alien trickster culture or something. We're gonna get those little humans.
Maybe powerful alien tricksters wrote the message in the stars as part of a cosmic prank.
So
Clarke's third law, any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic, magic being supernatural.
The Clarke from Clarke's third law is Arthur C. Clarke, the man who wrote 2001: A Space Odyssey. Clarke's third law states that any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. Dawkins gives an example.
If you were to fly a Boeing 747 back to the Middle Ages, you would be greeted as God.
Now, what's your point, Richard?
An alien visitation, any aliens who could actually visit us would have to be so far beyond us in their technology that they probably could manipulate the stars to spell out words or geometric forms or something of that sort.
Aliens that are powerful enough to reach us could also be powerful enough to write out words in the stars. So if we all walked outside one day and we read, I am God, believe in me, written in the stars in multiple languages, we should definitely not believe in God, because that message could have been written by alien tricksters. So God audibly speaking to Dawkins wouldn't convince him. Jesus appearing at his second coming wouldn't convince him. God writing a message in the stars wouldn't convince him. What would convince him?
So that couldn't be enough. So what would persuade you?
Well, I'm starting to think nothing would.
Nothing would. Even if God showed up and started blasting people with lightning bolts, that still wouldn't convince Dawkins that God exists. And if you listen to the discussion, it sounds like Peter Boghossian agrees completely. If God exists, there is absolutely nothing he can do to convince Richard Dawkins and Peter Boghossian that he exists. Why? Because they've adopted a methodology that is completely impervious to evidence. But there's more.
Well, I'm starting to think nothing would, which in a way goes against the grain, because I've always paid lip service to the view that a scientist should change his mind when evidence is forthcoming.
Did you catch that? Dawkins says that he's always paid lip service to the view that a scientist should change his mind in light of the evidence. He calls it lip service. Do you know what lip service means? It means you say one thing, but your actions show that you don't really believe what you're saying. So for all his talk about going where the evidence points, he admits that when it comes to the existence of God, evidence is irrelevant.
Because I've always paid lip service to the view that a scientist should change his mind when evidence is forthcoming. The trouble is, I can't think what that evidence would look like.
Isn't that interesting? According to Richard Dawkins, not according to me, according to Richard Dawkins, he will reject any evidence for God's existence. If God speaks to him directly, well, that could be a hallucination. If Jesus returns in the clouds, well, that could be a magic trick. God writes a message in the stars in multiple languages, well, that could be alien tricksters trying to trick me. Notice, the guy who has dedicated his life to telling people that there are no good arguments for the existence of God is the same guy who admits that he will automatically reject any argument for God's existence, no matter how strong the evidence is. The leaders of the new atheism haven't examined the evidence for God's existence and gone where the evidence points. They've set up a methodology that is impervious to evidence for anything they don't want to believe. My goodness, if we wanted to play by these rules, we could just say that the new atheists don't exist. But David, of course the new atheists exist. We just watched some clips of Richard Dawkins and Peter Boghossian. What if we were hallucinating? What if this is a David Blaine magic trick? What if alien tricksters want us to think we just saw Peter Boghossian interviewing Richard Dawkins? What if? Playing skeptic is easy, my friends. Now, we've heard Clarke's third law. Any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. I'm ready to lay down Wood's first law. Here it is. If you're going to reject an argument, no matter how good or bad the argument is, then the fact that you reject the argument tells us absolutely nothing about whether the argument is good or bad. If you're going to reject an argument, no matter how good or bad the argument is, then the fact that you reject the argument tells us absolutely nothing about whether the argument is good or bad. In other words, Dawkins rejects all arguments for the existence of God. What does that tell us about how good or bad these arguments for the existence of God are? Absolutely nothing, because Dawkins has admitted that he will reject any evidence, no matter how strong it is. If God speaks to him, Dawkins won't believe in God. If Jesus returns with a chorus of angels, Dawkins won't believe in God. If God writes a message in the stars, Dawkins won't believe in God. No matter what the evidence is, Dawkins won't believe in God. He admitted it. So when Dawkins declares that there's no evidence for God's existence, does that tell us anything whatsoever about whether there's evidence for God's existence? No. And yet, this is one of the guys whose followers trust him to do their deep thinking for them. Of course, if you explain this to them, they'll deny it. People who've been manipulated and conditioned with cult tactics usually don't realize they've been manipulated and conditioned. So when you show them what's happened to them, don't expect them to thank you for exposing the leader of their group. Keep in mind, I'm not talking about all atheists here. I'm referring to the ones who've been programmed like bots to run around screaming, "Show me the evidence, show me the evidence, show me the evidence. That's no evidence, that's no evidence, that's no evidence." It's their mantra. And it's incredibly difficult to get them to see how their thoughts and behavior have been conditioned, because now their self-esteem is connected to their membership in their group. Turns out that sitting at your computer all day telling people they're stupid because they're not in your group does give you an easy self-esteem boost. So criticizing their group is an attack on the source of their worth and value, and this makes it extremely difficult to show them how they've been manipulated. Notice I said difficult, not impossible. Cult tactics can be undermined and exposed.
Okay? Yan po yung kabuuan ng video ni Dr. Wood about this. Pero tingnan natin kung ano ang kanyang mga so-called debunking na pinagsasabi kanina ni Neil. Para makita po ninyo kung paanong tawag dito, paanong nananalayo sa katotohanan ang mga pinagsasabi. So let's go for this. Dito natin tatapusin. Obviously, ayaw niya po magparamdam through this live stream talaga. Kumbaga, hanggang keyboard warrior lang talaga to. So sige, isa-isay natin. Punta muna tayo sa lately. Ayun. A belief in Christ is sufficient. Anything else ay kaartehan nyo na lang. Remember, he never defined the word belief here. What kind of belief that he was talking to? Next. Are you? European monarchies pa lang. European colonies pa lang. Nalalayo na siya sa pinakapunto ni Dr. Wood dito. Hindi niya talaga nagigits yung point eh. So kung gagamitin din natin yung kanyang pinagsasabi, I don't know kung British si Richard Dawkins. So makabriton na ba si Neil Tristan Yabut? Walang actual stats. Tapos sinabihan niya pa si Dr. Wood na BOBO. What evidence, what methodology? He was not listening actually. Kung mangyari, sabi niya, kung mangyari na muna kaya yan, then everyone would be sure. Even though magpakita man ang Diyos sa harapan mo, kung ayaw mo pa rin maniwala, yun po yun. Inamin na mismo ito ni Richard Dawkins, and yet this guy was not listening. The skull passing test of doubt. No. Ang nangyari po sa'yo, unbelief. You decided not to believe. That's it. You are getting ahead on yourselves, so blah, blah, blah. Blasting people with lightning bolts, Christianity and its violence. Remember, this guy never, ever dealing with our main question or main challenge here. And his answer, simpleton. Teka lang, para maano natin yan kung anong kanyang sagot. So then, maybe I will going to finish this kind of sabi pa niya, for the same reason, what will convince you to believe in any of the other gods, blah, blah, blah. Was he really listening to his own argument here? Take note, ang pinaka-point natin, ayan, prove that Christianity is fake news. Kaya ang kaso, napakababaw ng kanyang sagot. Walang basis. Walang solid argument. Walang pundasyon. Claim with no evidence yan. So for the same reason, what will convince you to believe in any of the other gods? Which God are you talking about? Alam mo, sasabihin ko rin sa iyo yung sinabi mo ngayon sa akin. Imbes na magreklamo ka, imbes na magdadaldal ka o magtatahol ka online, why don't you starting proving that all the claims against Christianity are true? Patunayan mo na fake news ang Christianity. Ayan ang title ng ating live stream. Huwag mo akong bigyan ng ganyan lang. It will never work. But if this guy will not answering this kind of challenge, and he will give us this kind of answer like this, now we are dealing with a certain guy who claimed to be intellectual, and yet he was just like a kid na nagngangaw-ngaw lamang dahil lamang ninakawan ng candy. Remember, he cannot disprove Christianity. He was just making many silly assumptions. And take note, hindi pa natin siya naririnig ngayon. Hanggang typing lang ang alam, like this one. Typical a keyboard warrior who is not able to defend his own position. Well, that will be all for today. I-kick na natin kasi ganun lang din naman yung kanyang mga pinagsasabi. Walang good case sa kanyang argumento. And I think isang katalinuhan lamang na wag nang pansinin ng mga tulad nito. He was not really dealing with the main issue at all. Never. And guys, as you can see, yung nakikita nyo po ngayon sa screen, it is one of the textbook example of how the people like him continues to making excuses. Well, that's all for now. And to those who are watching, at saka sigurado ko may manunod yan mamaya-maya, wag po tayong gagaya sa taong ito. Mag-examine tayo, mag-aral muna, magbasa. That's it. Hindi yung nagka-claim lang tayo ng kung ano-ano nang walang anumang rason. That's all for now. And if the Lord wills, we will show you some of the screenshots na sinabi niya anytime. Sige, pahinga mode muna tayo. Have a great day. And by the way, still, Christianity makes sense, while his worldview isn't.